think of them as just kind of an old Lookout band mostly. And then the band they did have, I want to say a couple years ago they had
Wait,
a
were they on
record.
Lookout?
Yeah, weren't they? Weren't
I
they
don't think so.
like weren't they working with Ben Weasel and all that? Like wasn't that?
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. Man, we got a good episode today. Rob and I are hanging out per usual, and we're talking about the Lillingtons record. What is it? Dude, I just Death by Television. Good grief, man. We're gonna be talking Lillingtons, Death by Television, and Rancid, Let the Dominoes Fall. I believe they 10 years apart.
Yeah, 99 and 2009.
That's what okay. So we got 15 years and 25 years anniversaries. I like to just look for landmark anniversary dates to give us a topic. It makes it a little easier, and it's an album that people might be thinking about around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lillingtons is a band that I just really enjoy. And then obviously Rancid is who, you all know how we feel about Rancid. But yeah, dude, before we get started, how are you today, Rob?
I am gratefully tired. I would say it's been a busy, hard working week. So I feel like I'm tired because I put in the work, not necessarily tired because I'm overwhelmed. So it's like that good kind of tired that lasts for probably 2 more days, and then we're gonna hit the I'm grumpy tired. So gotta get the best out of it.
The satisfying tired.
Yeah.
The accomplished tired.
Haven't hit that wall yet, or are taking good enough care of myself generally to just sort of brace for impact. But yeah, it's I'm busy. It's warm. Like antsy. Everyone's antsy about stuff. I feel like everywhere I go, people have been just kind of antsy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's at like a fast pace. It feels like,
dude. I'm also very busy right now. I've been in like overtime work mode, saving money. I don't know if people are familiar with the channel or not, but in the next like week and a half, I'm doing a lot in the punk rock world. This weekend, I am going to see the Suicide Machines in San Antonio.
Nice. That's great.
Me. Yeah, and then the next night I'll be in Austin for the Misfits. Yeah.
I hate you.
I know, bro. I know. And I'm taking my family with me to on the trip, so we're renting an SUV and driving out. We're going to do family stuff during the day, and then at night I'm going to go see the show.
That is so cool.
We're going to go hang out with Chris Klink from Born to Lose, Nowhere Bound, and Generation Exit, and see him for a little bit, pick up something, and drop off a gift I have for him. And then the next weekend, on Sunday morning, I'm flying to Pittsburgh, bro. Got my plane ticket, got my hotel, got my rental car. I'm going to Pittsburgh, dude. I am going to go see Syndrome 81, the Slads, in no time. And there's 2 other bands that are playing. One of them has members of Coop George and Syndrome 81. I can't remember the band name, but I'm excited to watch them too. I bought a new gimbal for my GoPro and a new mic. So I'm going to take all this new equipment with me, and I'm going to make the best out of these trips, dude. I'm going to film all this stuff. I'm going to have footage for everybody to watch. I'm going to document every single show that I go to. I want people to know that this is important to me, man. Not just going to the shows. I'm old. I've been at these shows for my whole life. I've already done all the mosh pits, stage dives. I've hurt myself, gone to the hospital. Sincerely, I almost broke my tailbone once. I had a bone bruise for it was like a 2-month injury from a stage dive at a venue here in Houston. And so I've already done all that. And now I'm in the later years of being at shows, and I want to film it all. I want to document it. I want my kids to be able to watch it later. My kids like to go to these sometimes now, and so I'm really glad that I've been filming all this stuff for the last couple of years, because they can watch some stuff and go, "Oh, you were at that show." And especially if I'm traveling, bro, I gotta film all this stuff. So I'm very excited. I bought some new memory cards and a new gimbal, a new mic, and I'm ready to rock and roll, bro. I'm very, very excited. So the next 2 weeks are incredibly busy for me. And I'm a little nervous, man. I've only flown the one time, and this time I'm flying by myself. I'm going to Pittsburgh solo. So I depend on my wife for a lot. And when I go to this trip right now, I'm already thinking about oh, geez, dude, I'm not going to have her to help me with this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, it's so overwhelming. But it's only going to be a day and a half.
Yep, and thanks to all the progress you've made in your life, I can't give you all the advice I would normally give someone if they're nervous on a plane. So Good luck.
Man.
All natural. Jeez.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But I am getting a car in Pittsburgh. So on Monday, my flight, what I was planning on doing was flying in for the show on Sunday, because my plane tickets were one thing, and the tickets have changed.
Oh, yeah.
Initially I was going to fly in at like 3 p.m, just go hang out at the venue all day, just whatever, man. Dick around and maybe meet some of the musicians and maybe get a couple of photos and an interview or something. And then I was going to just Uber back to the airport and sleep in the airport until the plane was ready to go, and then fly home, and then get home like butt crack early, right?
Jeez, yeah.
Well, I decided to take Spirit Airlines, just save money, because it's a 3-hour flight. I don't need the amenities. And I'm only taking one bag because it's one day. So that round trip flight is at a different time. It starts earlier and it leaves on Monday much later. It's not a morning, it's a nighttime leave.
Oh.
So, well, the only thing that's cool about that is that I decided to go ahead and get a car. And on Monday, I'm going to go hit up a couple of record stores and like do a little shopping and like film it. And I've never been anywhere, man. So I'm like really, really excited. So if you're from Pittsburgh, holler at your boy, man. Like, my information's in the description of my videos. If you need to talk to me about something, hit me up. I'll give you my phone number. And if you're from Pittsburgh, I would love to chit chat, hang out, take a photo, just whatever, man. Like, this channel's going to be a vehicle for me to do a lot of cool shit. And eventually it's going to be a vehicle for me to help other people somehow. I don't know how, but I've already got that in my list of things to do. Is somehow I'm going to do some charitable work. I don't know how yet, but I will get there. I was going to do some stuff for Lou, was sick of it all, but he already met all of his like monetary goals and stuff to help him with cancer. So that really lit a fire under my ass. And so I know I help bands with my label. That's also a selfish endeavor, man. I love doing that. Yeah. So that's cool and all, but I love doing that. I want to be able to do something, and I probably won't advertise it a lot. I might advertise as far as like, hey, help me accomplish this goal. But once it's accomplished, I don't want to be the guy that's going, hey, look at me. Look
what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, but I am telling you guys, I will be doing some good. I will be doing some good for some people at some point in the near future. This channel has become much bigger, faster than I was expecting, and I'm really proud of it, and I appreciate everybody. Rob, you included on that, man. It's crazy, dude. Fuck, dude, it's crazy, bro. Flying to Pittsburgh. Like, if you told me I was doing this 6 months ago, I would have laughed right in your face.
Yeah, that sounds fun though. Like all that. That's a lot, but all that like it's all in pursuit of doing like fun stuff, you know. It's all
it's living the life. I set this stuff up years and years and years ago for me, and you know, shout out to my wife, dude. Shout out to my wife for supporting me doing the channel, supporting me doing the label, helping me get clean and sober and get my life together, bringing me a beautiful family, helping me get a car. Like, she did all this stuff. Like, yeah, I'm the one that bought the car, sure, but without her, I wouldn't have been able to get my credit enough to get the car. So like, she allows me to go do these things, dude. We are a team, and neither of us are perfect, especially not me. But the fact that she's allowing me to go do these things, like, I don't really have to wonder if I'm gonna be told yes or no. I can just go, hey babe, what do you think about this? And she's almost always gonna say yes. So yeah, you know, shout out to my wife for being like the realest motherfucker I know. Like, straight up wants me to do this stuff. She thinks it's doing well. She thinks I'm doing good and I'm providing a service that's important. I don't know, man. I'm really, really fortunate. So baby, if you're watching this, I love you. All that said, let's talk about some punk rock music, man.
Let's do it.
So the Lillingtons are a band that I really love. This band. And they're not as big as their, like, I guess, I don't know what to call it, their counterpart with Teenage Bottle Rocket. You guys know I love Teenage Bottle Rocket. I have hella Bottle Rocket stuff. I always wear the hat. It's like one of the same dudes, all right, that was in the Lillingtons. Now, Lillingtons aren't active anymore as far as I know. But in 1999, they dropped a record called Death by Television. And, dude, this album is so ridiculous. It's so freaking good. I will say the only thing I don't like about it is that it's incredibly short, which typically is something I enjoy, but it's 32 minutes, 14 songs, and they just zoom by. Like, do the math on that. 14 songs, 32 minutes. They're like just over 2 minutes a piece. And every single song is catchy. Every single song is like a little earworm, dude. Like, we're going to get into that here in a minute. So what's your experience with this band, Rob? I know you're not like an Uber fan. I'm probably a bigger fan than you, I would think.
Yeah. I kind of think of them as just kind of an old Lookout band mostly. And then the band, they did have, I want to say a couple years ago, they had a
Wait, were they on Lookout?
Yeah, weren't they?
I don't think so.
Like, weren't they working with Ben Weasel and all that? Like, wasn't that?
Holy crap, dude! You might be right. I hold on. I look, dude. I like their music. I don't. You know me. I'm not the guy that knows all the facts about bands. So this is kind of one of the reasons I love this channel, is I get to learn about it just as much as anybody else. Continue your thoughts. I'm looking at this.
And so like I like that stuff generally, but I think you like it like a little more specifically. You know what I mean?
Like the Ramones core type stuff.
Yeah, like I like the feel of it, but I'm more of a fan of the Ramones, where you're more of a fan of the Ramones core. You know what I mean?
That's actually true.
And to the extent that I like a lot of that stuff, I think I like a lot of the stuff that like the Fat Records bands kind of borrowed from that stuff. And I say all that just to say I don't have as much specific fandom of these bands, but I think of them as just like cartoony punk, like cartoony skate punk, and that's why the Teenage Bottle Rocket thing is exactly perfect. Yeah, they had they came back a couple years ago, didn't they? Didn't they have like a little revival?
Lillingtons?
Yeah.
I don't know, man, because they did pop up, and everybody's like, yeah, I guess in 2017 they were still doing stuff. I think they finally called it quits in 2020. So it does look like they were on Lookout at some point, at least as far as Wikipedia says. But their earlier stuff that I was thinking of wasn't on Lookout, so I'm not sure. But yeah, man, yeah. I love this freaking band.
I mean, regardless, that's sort of the vibe that they have, and it's like we've been talking a lot about these type of bands, and they're sort of like almost over exaggerated in the way they deliver all their stuff, and I think that's what maybe sort of limits them to kind of like a corner where like you have to kind of be like super into them to get into them. They're poppy, but they're not necessarily like accessible, and it's hard to explain exactly what that means, but like there's other bands that we like that we think of as like harder punk, but probably is like more accessible in a way. And it's hard to explain what that is, but they just sort of have that kind of thing about them. But I think they exist in a pretty cool space, and they have a fairly healthy following. Like there's a ton of a ton of fans, and people like their stuff. So I think they have a nice little like legacy, you know, as a band that had a short career, but did well.
Since they're so closely linked to Teenage Bottle Rocket, anytime you talk about one, you typically talk about the other. Okay, so I knew I had a copy of this sitting around where I knew where it was at. It's odd that we're doing this record this week because I just recently purchased a CD copy of it. I think this is on. Wait, what? I think this might be on Lookout, dude. Holy crap! Is that?
No, it's on Panic Button.
Okay, yeah.
I'll look at it now. It's on Panic Button.
Okay. Dude, I see somewhere that they were doing something with Lookout though, so you are correct about that.
They might have been one of the Lookout bands in like the downturn, so they might have been right there. So that's probably why I think of them in that time period. 'Cause that's when I would have found like the Lookout.
Right.
Too. Yeah.
So this album came out in March of 1999 on Panic Button, I guess. So I'm gonna read off some of my notes, and we can just kind of talk about it. I don't have a ton of notes on this album. The Rancid one gets a lot more notes because I'm a lot more, I don't know what the word would be, familiar obviously, but that Rancid is just
closer to it. Yeah,
it's just they're different. We'll get to that too, man, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But this album starts off with one of the most iconic songs of this subgenre, of like this like poppy, campy Ramones core stuff with War of the Worlds. That song I've heard on so many lists, and I've seen it on comps, that not necessarily like legit comps, it might have been bootleg stuff, but I've seen it on like mixtapes and lists, and I've heard it referred to and talked about on a lot of pop punk channels and shows. That song is incredible, and it is so catchy. Have you heard of any of these songs before this week, or is that one that you've heard before?
Yeah, I heard that one, and then like Black Hole in My Mind. I don't know what that was on.
So good.
So I don't know if it's exactly what you're talking about. Like sometimes I think stuff was comps, as you're saying, and it's really my friend made the CD.
That's what I was trying to get at. Is that I might be thinking of comps when it might actually be a mixtape.
Well, and also those, but even then, those usually the reason why those are on tapes that people would make is because those were rarer songs that were only available on comps. So that's also you generally didn't always have album cuts on those things. So and again, that's kind of my relationship with this band. But yeah, I think of like skate videos. I think of actual skate videos. I feel like this music just sounds like it goes to skate videos better than what I consider better, like skate punk. You know what I mean? Like other bands in the skate punk genre I like better, but this seems like it would fit that like a little better. Yeah,
this stuff has a sound that just fits like cutting up in class, skateboarding. It also sounds like the 90s and the 70s. So I put down intricately simplistic. I know that sounds like it doesn't go together, but that's what it is. This music is incredibly simple on the top layer, but if you just peel back the very first layer, you go, oh, they made it simple, but they did it in the most difficult way possible. They did like little weird chord progressions. They did weird note changes, different vocal melodies in their songs that sound incredibly simple. But if you try to replicate it, it'll probably be difficult. It's like drawing, look at this simple style of cartoon that has become very popular with the big, bold, fat outlines and the bold, solid color insides. Try to draw one of those things, dude. It's so hard, man, because it's the artist comes up with their design, and to try to replicate their way of drawing is probably going to be hard. And that's how this music is, at least as far as I'm concerned. I hear it and go, oh, it sounds like I could probably play this really easy. And you go look at it and you go, oh, man, I didn't realize they did that in the song. Oh, I didn't realize he sang it like that. And if you're listening to how like I should do this in a karaoke night, yeah, go try to do this like monotone vocal thing he does. A, it's not easy, and B, it's not actually monotone as much as you think. Because if you listen to the album more than once, you'll start to hear all the nuances in his singing. But
no, and I think even like a band we talked about a couple weeks ago, in RKL, kind of falls a little bit in this category of
sure.
It's pop punk that's almost more. I always say that like with the Ramones and all these bands, there's a spectrum of art versus punk almost. Whereas like the Ramones are almost more art than they are punk or whatever. But I think like I think the difference always with pop punk is very much music. It's not really art in that same kind of way. Pop punk is pop songs by its core. And I think the version of it though that is most like artistic is like the stuff like the Lillingtons, like even RKL, the little bit more underground of that stuff. Like you kind of understand the stew that all the really famous stuff came from. You understand like kind of where they got where they got their ideas or what the sensibilities were kind of at the time and in these scenes. Like it very much looks like the stuff that kind of made it big later, but like that stuff is almost more like Hollywoodized than what this stuff kind of looks like. But same basic idea.
So you have brought up in the past many times that Blink wouldn't exist without the Descendants, right? And I've come around on that a lot, and I've got to admit that that's accurate. But I also think that they wouldn't exist without, like in their earlier days specifically, without bands like this. Maybe not this particular album. This came out around this time that I think Dude Ranch came out in '99, or no.
So Enema,
so Enema came out.
Yeah, so Blink's like one of the biggest bands in the world when this comes out.
Yeah, so but like bands like this, i.e. Screeching Weasel is what I was thinking of when I was saying this. But like bands like this kind of sound influenced bands like Blink and probably Sum 41 and all that kind of stuff. They were listening to this kind of music. It's very obvious. Now they didn't necessarily replicate it because they play bigger sounds and they're different. They have a different agenda too, though. I mean, these guys just want to play rock and roll and sing about weird, funny shit and science fiction movies and stuff like that. Like it is quite a bit different, but you can hear the influence in some of these modern pop punk bands. Excuse me.
Yeah, and that's why I was making the art point too, because they're more like true believers in their weirdness. Whereas, like,
oh yeah. I mean, even all the way down to the cover art, dude. This looks like an old, like 1970s or 60s, 50s horror movie,
which also invokes like the Misfits, and like I think.
Oh, we're gonna get to that too.
Right, and that's kind of what this sort of the Misfits are kind of caricatures like that, and that same the Misfits are probably like the Godfather kind of that sort of aesthetic within punk. Right, I think like the other bands, like the bands that I really like. They're more artists with the music specifically in getting like good at doing that, where this is more about the creativity, and those are they're just two different kind of skill sets.
So when I was mentioning something about intricately simplistic, I did write down a reference, and there's a part in the song you were just talking about, "Black Hole in My Mind," where he's singing and he's doing this like monotone thing, and then all of a sudden he switches it up and he goes da na 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 na. Da, na, na. And he does it like 4 times, and then he goes da, na, 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 and then he goes right back to it. Da. And it's just this little bitty change that you're like, oh man, like without that being there, you might not have noticed that it wasn't there, but with it being in the song, it just adds a little bit of intricacy. And I don't know if I'm making my point very well, but
No, I think you are. I think I'm kind of picking up on.
And also the drums in that song are incredible, in my personal opinion. And I wrote down 2 words. I just put down cinematic earworms. That's what these songs are.
Mm-hmm.
They play out like a movie or a comic book or a cartoon.
Which, again, very Misfitsy in that
very Misfitsy. Yeah, for sure. I put down with songs like "Don't Trust the Humanoids" and "I Saw the Ape Man." This is like if the Misfits were a little more camp and a little less dark. So yeah, I definitely heard Misfits all over this. Right
yeah,
now.
it's like, well, like you say 8-man. Like I'm thinking of the Ramones have 8-man hop. So it's basically if the Misfits and Ramones kind of collided, it's what you would get. It's like
it's like the Misfits on Scooby Doo.
Yeah, that's exactly. Which again, that's very like the Ramones are also very comic booky, and like they were in like Spider-Man and that kind of.
Yeah.
So it's very like it very much feels of that ilk. And again, like I think of like early punk and stuff, and like there was no rules, so there's a lot of different like bands of different sort of genres before like the 90s, before all these guys came out and kind of synthesized what like punk is. And like you see it in like even in the Offspring and those bands before they got famous, and how different those records sound even song by song. And you see it in these bands that are really there's nothing though. There's always stuff from like old school punk that like, yeah, that's normal. Just a lot of that stuff maybe later on hasn't been kept as much, so we don't think of it as much as being a part of punk. Like that creativity stuff with the monotone, with the sludgy kind of slower stuff that can break down, the longer stuff, the more almost like virtuoso jammy kind of punk that existed since like the 80s. It's more like the 90s that kind of pulled back on that when it got a little more commodified.
Well, I appreciate that these guys found a style they liked, and there's like 2 or 3 versions of their style, and they do all 3 really well.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a specific style, and it's the one that like when I want to hear this kind of music, there's nothing else that will fill that void. I gotta hear this kind of music. If I want to hear a band that sounds like this, there's only about 6 or 7 that I really gravitate towards, but there's probably like 30 or 40 Ramones core bands out there that are really quality. If anybody out there wants to throw a list in the comments, I'm fixing to do a Ramones core deep dive, I think, because while I like the music, I don't actually know a ton about it. I just really like the music.
Yeah, and there's a lot of obscure bands within that stuff that I think is like really good.
Yeah.
Like finds that you can just like that I don't know about, that you don't know about. But
there's so much of that stuff out there.
Yeah, so influential. Like just so much the groundwork for everything that came in that decade.
Well, you know what I've learned about myself, that it's almost hard to admit this on air, but I'm gonna say it because I'm pretty transparent, and I'm all about self-awareness. And I've always been a fan of punk rock music. I was so busy living the punk rock lifestyle, like just going to shows, listening to the songs, playing in bands. Honestly, dude, like being broke is a lot of work, man. And I would be out just working 2 jobs. So I didn't do a lot of research, man. We've talked about this a couple of times. I think I've always been the guy that knew the songs but didn't know the history, man. I don't know a lot about a lot of stuff I love. And doing this channel, it is so rewarding to learn things even later in my life. I don't think there's anything wrong with not knowing the history, because sometimes you're just too damn busy. Like that's not that important. And at the end of the day, it really isn't. Doing stuff right now is important, but it is important to keep the stuff alive, man. You got to keep it alive. You got to document it. And I don't know. I just think it's funny that I don't really know a lot about these things, that I guess on the surface I would think I knew quite a bit about it. And maybe I do, but there's not a lot of people that I know that have knowledge on all of it. Most people know something about their shit, you know?
Well, and punk rock specifically, because it's mostly been underground, it's very like regionalized.
Right.
Like
that's kind of what I was talking about.
I consider myself very like a generalist almost. I have good general knowledge of punk rock, and there's a few things that I have like very deep knowledge on, but like people that know about, that's why doing a podcast like you do is kind of important, because you got to get different perspectives from different heads, because punk is it's so broad. But what could be punk, but all those things would kind of fit into punk and the punk lifestyle and the punk aesthetics and everything else. It's a big thing to talk. It's a weighty topic that I think probably I know it like is studied. Like I actually get like notifications about academic articles about punk. Like people are interested in it generally as a subculture, but I think as like people don't really appreciate how much history everyone doesn't know about punk, because
Right.
like how could you know about like unless you
man.
have like and it's great that it's documented in the zines the way that it is, but that is sort of like the living historical record of it. Like thank God that exists. That's the reason why
For real.
there's something for us not to know about. And like punk happens right before everything's really documented. That's why like learning about that is still so hard, because I feel like now if you wanted to really learn about something that was happening, you would just follow them on the socials and you would be
Right.
caught up. It was just
Well, it's
like
a lot less regional now. It still is, but it's a lot
Yeah.
less like that now than it was even 15 years ago. So
yeah, you could just pretty much
But-
be into anything you want anywhere you lived, or even just be into stuff that was not necessarily about regional, but like obscure. Something like the
Right.
Lillingtons that you can't just find
They are
at the
pretty
Walmart
obscure, I
and
would
stuff.
think. I mean,
Not really underground, but like hard enough, like in like a
Teenage
small
Bottle
town.
Rocket is a band that I would consider not that famous, right? And the Lillingtons are like not as famous as them.
Mhm.
I didn't know about the Lillingtons until I was already a pretty big Teenage Bottle Rocket fan. And it is what it is. You find things when you find things.
Yeah,
but-
well, bands that don't quote make it, you know what I mean, are kind of just there usually for the people that live through it, and that's
Right.
usually that it's hard to find bands because like
would you consider the Lillingtons a band that didn't make it? 'Cause
no,
I
but they're not
don't
like a
know that.
huge. They're not like a huge band. I would say they're
That's
not like
true.
one of these
That's
mega
true. I
bands.
mean,
You know
there's
what I mean?
bands bigger than them that still have day jobs. So I guess,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like a condescending way to say that, but bands that I would say aren't
don't
on like
make a living off their
yeah,
band. Only.
like aren't like, or even, and again, like pretty much everyone in a band has a job, but like aren't generally on like festivals, and part of that's the inactivity, but also like the inactivity might be because like only how far could you take it? And again, I'm not trying to be.
Right.
It's all
Well, no, but
they
it
don't-
is a truth though that
Yeah.
people don't often talk about is that a lot of these bands, a lot of the bands that we love, that are all over our Spotify and YouTube, they all have regular ass day jobs. I just showed you my new back patch from the Havoc. Dude, Justin from the Havoc owns a print shop. That's what he does because he doesn't have enough money coming in from the band to just do the band. And there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, it's kind of better because you get guys that do it for the love of it more so than the money, and they don't get as burnt out as easy. It's
Well, we just talked about MXPX. MXPX. This is not a small pop punk
that's
band.
a great point.
Two of their members, work part time at the
Still work-
shipyard.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
It also
Well,
just shows the economics of music, by the way, too. That's
no,
also,
it's a tough thing to try to make it on any level. We were talking about RKL and Bad Religion last week, and I find it so funny that the Lillingtons are quite literally on our scale of punk rock music the polar opposite, like lyrically, from a band like Bad Religion. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just I prefer the Lillingtons lyrics personally, but it's also more of my just interests anyways, because they talk about the movies and stuff that I like. But
it's a lot of your things all like synthesized,
wrapped up into one, yeah. But I just think it's funny that we go from one end all the way to the other with these bands, and it's all under the same umbrella. I think it's pretty wonderful.
Even within this show, there's a pretty big tonal shift in like tone of record that we're about to talk about.
Yeah, 100%. I put down that this album is so much fun. It's like they air out their frustrations still, but just not in a combative way. They're just a bunch of super simple, catchy songs with hooks for days, vocal melodies that make you sing along. And then I put this right here is pop punk. This is what I consider pop punk music. Now I know that thing is. I'm at the point to where I just accept the fact that that's subjective,
Right?
And somebody else might go, "Oh, that's just a punk band," and I go, "Well, it's a pop punk band. What's the difference?" I don't even care to argue about it anymore, man. This is what I think of when I think of pop punk. When people say, "Oh, what kind of music do you like?" and I say pop punk, I'm not thinking of Neck Deep and stuff like that. I just simply don't think of that music as pop punk. While I would almost say maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of other people definitely do consider that stuff pop punk.
No, I mean that's fair, and I think this stuff is weird because people don't really know how to like react to it. Like it's or not know how to react with it, but it's hard for people to understand that there's pop punk that's not super famous. Like
right. There's pop punk that's more punk than pop.
Yeah, and you are like you said, that's probably the genre that you most actually listen. Like the volume of bands that you listen to probably falls like right into those kind of bands. Like
I would say either that or like straight up like oi music at this point in my life. Like the past few years, I would say oi is like 70% of what I listen to. Maybe more. I listen to a lot of that, but yeah, over my lifetime, this is a pretty big chunk.
Yeah, because I feel like even the other stuff that we like the epitaph and stuff, even the underground stuff like that is just taken a little more seriously. So it's been just a little more well documented and stuff. It's been a little more like preserved.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
this album is a lot of fun, man. After about what is it, midway through the record, you have let's see. Oh no, we're wrapping the record up at this point. When I was like listening to it, we have a song called "Murder on My Mind," dude. That song is so fast. I really appreciate the fact that you can have tempo differences in these songs that are vast, but the feeling of the album kind of has a steady flow, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like you have this like all around vibe of the record, but the tempo of the songs, each individual song, it can be very, very different. The speed of each song can be very, very different. The topic remains the same for the most part. The melodies change, the tempo changes, but I don't know, man. They've packaged this up in a really, really nice way, and I truly love this band a lot, man. I'm gonna be
it connects together well. The album
also, I wanted to look up the lyrics for "Murder on My Mind." Is that an anti-war song?
Let's see.
I think because I look at these guys as like a really jokey band, but even the bands that are like, I mean, look at what NoFX did. They turned it around from a band that used to be just wholeheartedly silly and jokey to being a band that was fairly political with their lyrics. Let's see.
Because isn't there? I think of the rap song "Murder on My Mind." My son likes it with the rapper
man,
that's like
is
in
that
jail? The rapper that was like on trial for murder.
That shit is so dumb, dude.
That's what I thought of when he said "Murder on My Mind."
Dang, dude, I can't believe I didn't think of that, but I didn't. That's hilarious. Let's see here. Sorry, folks, for this dead air.
I think it's like a horror movie song. I think it's.
Oh, is it really?
I think it's a. It's like attacking. It's like attacking kids at Halloween. Is like the.
Oh man. Okay, I thought. Oh no! Wait a minute. I might be. Oh shit. No, I'm thinking of a song on the Rancid album that was a war song, bro. We'll get to that later, dude. There's a song on there that I am positive. Why did I write this? I wrote this on the wrong piece of literature notes. I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
August. Okay.
Dude, what is wrong with me, man?
Jeez. That's great. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say yes to whatever song you were gonna ask about in the future.
Well, you won't get to that. I got a lot of notes on this Rancid album because even though I've listened to it a million times, there were still things that I heard today that I haven't heard on it before. And then right before the last song on the album, you have a song called Caveman. I hear a lot of Offspring references, not references, just a lot of similar sounds. I think the Offspring probably likes a lot of this kind of music too.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of sounds that cross from Screeching Weasel and Lillingtons all the way over to the Offspring stuff. And even the new Offspring song, super catchy, very Ramones-esque. I don't know how much I like it, but I don't dislike it.
Yeah, I haven't even checked it out yet. I saw that it was up. I'll check it out later. But
it's a pretty good song. I listened to it on the stream the other day.
Definitely a similar influence pool of a band like the Lillingtons for sure.
Well, the Lillingtons album is fairly simple. It's not that long, so there's no need to sit here and talk about it for an hour. But overall, how do you feel about the record?
I like it. Overall thumbs up. I'm not as familiar with it to give it like a full out of 10 rating, but
for sure,
an enjoyable listen. A fun, like a band I wish I kind of would listen to a little more.
Right. It's over too fast, man. It comes and goes. And you're like, oh, damn, that was it.
Yeah.
I urge anyone that's into Screeching Weasel that isn't a fan of the Lillingtons to give them a shot, man. If you like Teenage Bottle Rocket, obviously, if you like these guys, go check out the Lillingtons. This band, I believe, came first. I'm almost positive they were a couple years before Teenage Bottle Rocket. I get those kind of details mixed up in my head a lot. So, I say that with like some confidence. Like I'm pretty sure. But yeah, man, I give that album like a 9 out of 10. I think the only thing I would like to add to it would be some like guitar leads a la NoFX. Other than that, it's pretty perfect. I really like it. I sing loud to it. It gets stuck in your head. All the choruses are super. These dudes, look, here's the thing. These guys know how to take a chorus and write a short chorus with maybe I don't know, dude, 5 to 10 words. Very short. Make it repetitive and catchy, and then write, like, the verse is where you get the meat of the song. The chorus is always really short, not a lot of content to it, like a couple of phrases just repeated a few times, and it's so catchy. I know a lot of bands that have tried to do that, and they just simply can't. It's way harder to do than you think, and I think that that's probably where their expertise is, writing catchy little earworms that get stuck in your head. And when you go to a show, it's easy to sing along. You see a lot of crowd interaction at shows like this because they know all the words to the choruses. I think this is just brilliant songwriting that isn't, some kind of virtuoso guitar player going, it's not that kind of shit. It's just quality songwriting. And I love it.
Real quick, I have done my crack research here, and now this rings a bell of what here. So they recorded this record with what's his name, Mastiarnji, the guy who recorded all the Lookout stuff.
Okay.
But they recorded it independently. Basically, they were offered, according to Fat Mike, they were offered, or according to this, they were offered some by Fat. They were offered something, but they ended up going to Panic Button, which was this is the detail I was missing. Panic Button was the imprint of Lookout that Ben Weasel ran.
Dude, okay, because I was looking at the spine and it said LK on there, and I was like, "This is Lookout."
It is okay, yeah, and if you recall, that's like one of the major things that, and we won't spend a lot of time with this, but one of the major things that brought down Lookout was having to fund this label.
Really?
So that's actually just a nice little nugget of history. Because like I know, I was like Panic Button. What do I know about Panic Button Records? And I couldn't recall. And I was looking, I was like, oh, that's what it is. So it's fairly significant that that's where that was housed, because that. There was always
the Donnas and the Lillingtons, man. They buried Lookout.
It's more like Ben Weasel than the Lillingtons. It was always, there was always issues with Ben and the Lookout management. It was a constant like just negative relationship, like all the way till the very end, and they really bled a lot out of each other.
I wonder why he did those things. Like I don't know.
I think he's talked about some issues that he had, like some mental health issues. I think he's been like legit diagnosed for. I want to say that. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but that's in my mind that was what, like, he's talked a little bit about crazy. That in a few recent years. Yeah, so I think he had, like, even his bandmates have said how difficult he was to get along with. And
I do know he's notoriously
and I don't know that he's
like
necessarily shitty. Like a bad guy. I think he's just kind of like the guy you don't want to be in business with or in a band with necessarily. Like that's why they like the issue he had with Rancid. I forget what it was even over, but that's why they were never welcome again on Epitaph. Is there
Screech and Weasel?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Ben tends to feud with a lot of people.
I did know that. I've heard enough drama with him to know that he has a fair amount of opposition.
Hell of a singer and songwriter, though. Jeez.
I mean, yes, I really appreciate him for his artistic abilities. Absolutely. Well, this brings us to Rancid. So give me 1 second here. All right. All right, so in 2009, 15 freaking years ago, man, 15 years ago, Rancid brought to the table an album that I guess I like to pair it with Indestructible personally, even though it was a big chunk of time in between the two.
It's the same. It's the same era, though. It is so
much it's in that era, but they brought Let the Dominoes Fall, and I think that it was harshly criticized for a long time, and people are starting to come around on this album a little bit more. I don't understand how anybody could dislike this record if you're a fan of the band, and I'm about to get into why. So welcome to our discussion on Rancid, Let the Dominoes Fall, because this album is magnificent, man. It is such a good record.
It's awesome. I made a video years ago ranking Rancid albums, and I had this, I think, number 3 or number 4. So the big controversial take is after the Let's Go Wolves, I had I had Dominoes and Indestructible. And I forget which order I quite had them in, but like the biggest revelation then, and this is 4 years ago, was how much I forgot that I loved Dominoes then. Like, wow, this record's awesome, because I definitely listened to the heck out of it when it came out. But you just don't necessarily think of it always. And I think, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have that reputation. So like when I think of the big Rancid songs, I don't necessarily think of a lot of songs that are on this record, but there's nothing on this record that I don't like. And I've just spent so much time with this record. We've talked about it before. I had the double version, this one and the acoustic CD. And I want to say a DVD that might've came with that as well.
Yeah, the acoustic one had it opened up it had like a disc tray in the middle, and then the other side opened twice, I think.
Yeah,
or no, it might have been like that opened twice to a booklet, and then it had like a disc on each side.
Okay, yeah, and it had guitar
Something
picks
like
too. I remember. I still have those laying around. I still have a guitar pick that says it says like branded on it and stuff.
Dude, I still have my poster right here on my wall, framed Dominoes poster, sitting right there, bam, right over by my door. Right above my guitar from Tim Armstrong.
Yeah, but even, and I say same era, I was insistent on same era as Indestructible, but even thinking back of when this was released, because I remember the time periods in my life very specifically, it's still, Rancid did feel kind of old. It felt like they were like wow, Rancid, because I had made my peace after Indestructible that I thought they were done. I claimed that on every album.
Really?
But
okay.
Yeah, I just really thought, because remember at the time they thought Matt had cancer.
Yeah.
And all that. Tim had just gotten divorced. So there was a lot of stuff going on. They were all working on the side projects. I kind of thought maybe the Rancid thing just might have run its, they might just kind of be done with it. It's been a great
everything
run.
Does come to an end. I mean, that is a fact.
Yeah. And I remember I had seen them in the interim. So I knew they weren't dying, but I wasn't necessarily what's going to be the next one. There was just a lot going on. And me personally, though, also just the time of my life, there was a lot going on. So I remember this feeling kind of old, but listening to it again, it has all the production, especially, is very similar to Indestructible. I think the songs
we're
be a
gonna
little
get
bit
into
different.
that too.
It just that's where it's Indestructible more than any. It's that 2000s production style and it's 2000s production style, that 2000s Tim Armstrong songwriting that he was doing. It just feels. It feels when you hear it, it sounds all like that era. It's just at the very end of that. The last prime of Rancid, I'd say this is maybe the end of how they were thought of them before they shifted into another phase after this. I can't really figure out what it is, but
their later phase quite a bit, but I would say that this one is different. This is so let me just get into some of my bullet points real quick, and we'll kind of go with this because this is going to be a long talk, I think. Mm-hmm. The album opens with, in my opinion, a classic with East Bay Night. I love that song, and Rancid are the kings, dude, of opening up albums with just bangers, dude. Think about all their records. They all start off with something that grabs your attention. It's either a single or it's something crazy fast, or you know what I'm saying? They make a point at the very beginning of the record.
I feel like this and the song Indestructible, it's almost like the songs that start out midway, sometimes they open the album with, there's not a lot of build up to the fast parts. They just kind of started, where a lot of other bands on their opening number, you have a big guitar build up or something like that. Right. There's a little bit of that with Maxwell. Yeah, but on Indestructible, he just starts singing, and I know, and this
I love it.
There's a little guitar chord, but it's East Bay now, and it's just it's almost like it's in the middle of the jam, and it is just
they start off with a chorus, and I think that's
that's what it is. That's more what I'm identifying. Yeah, you're right.
And so there's not a lot of fat on this album, like you were saying a minute ago. There's only 2 songs that I even
and it's pretty long too, right? I've never. The only way I consider the length of it is it was the second or third vinyl I ever got. I got this and Life Won't Wait were some of the first things I ever got on vinyl. And so there's 4 of them, when you get Dominoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a big record.
Yeah.
There's only 2 songs that I even consider skipping, and I typically don't even do that. I just let them play. I'm just this isn't my favorite. But on the 3rd song here, you got Up to No Good, and I wrote, this is the amalgamation of all the years of Rancid learning, the fruition of all their experience, the pop sensibilities of and Out Come the Wolves, the experimental sounds of Life Won't Wait, and the production of Indestructible. It's such a great song. And if you go back and you listen to Up to No Good, if you just listen to it while you're doing something, you won't understand, because it just sounds like a dancey ska song or maybe a reggae song. Dude, go listen to that song loud as shit. Listen to it with your eyes closed and just listen to the layers and the sounds and the things that they did. it is exactly what I said. It's got pop sensibilities that Out Come the Wolves had. It's got experimental stuff that you would get with Life Won't Wait. And then it's got the production of their later stuff on Indestructible. So this is quite literally the culmination of 20 years of work and 20 years of writing music. And it's amazing, dude. Maybe it's 30 years. It's a long time that they were doing this shit.
Yeah, at this point, it was a little bit sooner.
Right.
Up to No Good too had that cool video. It was just that live video. That.
Oh, I didn't know they had a video for that one.
Yeah, it was a real basic like live video, but that was kind of cool because it's such an upbeat song, and
it's such a great song.
What's great about this album is all three vocalists. Like I think this is the strongest they ever were together.
Yes.
Like as far as shared responsibilities, like
Absolutely.
by far, I think this is like. This one, I like a lot of what Matt brings on self-titled. Actually, the self-titled 2002 I'm talking about. I don't like it as much on, but I like a little bit what he brings on that. But I like Matt's like perfect on this album. Like this is like perfect Matt. And all three of them are great. And all three of them have a lot of roles. Like on Up to No Good, I can think of parts that both got like, I don't know all three, but at least that Tim and Lars are singing. We also missed This Place. We should point that out. It's a short song. But
no, I didn't miss it. I skipped it on purpose. That's one of the ones I don't.
Is that one of yours?
Like.
That's a good candidate for a skip. That is good. It's quick. It's just sort of.
I will say
basic,
the positive of it is that it's not a real long song, so it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, and something too on this. I think this is their most not overtly political album, but the one album that the politics of it are most tied to what was happening in the country at the time. Because pretty much every one of these songs is about like economic recession, which was going on in like 08, 09. It's their more
a lot of politics in this album.
Yeah, it's their most and pretty much every Rancid song has like a political tinge to it. But this album feels like the most specifically political of any album.
Well, since they were getting older, man, they're looking at the world through a different lens.
Reflective, yeah, and being kind of on top of it and still in the past of it, and they were very much like the elder statesmen, like fully realized at this point, like because they're still in the mix more so when Indestructible, like they're on MTV with Indestructible. This is more them being settling into that role.
Before we move on to the next song, I do want to point out that I really like that they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like nobody does that. They always count 1, 2, 3, and they do something or 2, 3, 4. But they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know why, but that has always captivated me. I've always loved that and appreciate it because it kind of sticks out as an oddity, right?
Yeah, it's like a lyric the way it's rather than a count.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we go on to the last one, To Die.
Yeah.
Dude, that song is like Indestructible Part 2. It's an absolute gem of a song. And I sing it every single time that I hear it. It's such a good song. And I think that one was a single, wasn't it?
This was the big song from the album. Yeah. So this is how I found out this album was happening.
East Bay Night has been the one that's eclipsed it, I think.
Probably.
In popularity.
Yeah. This is the one that's how I found out like the album was happening. Because again, it's like, the mid 2000s. I'm just kind of like working at the job I'm at. Like I don't think like we had the internet to the extent I had like on my phone. They weren't like smartphones like the way we do now.
Isn't that crazy how long ago this was? And it wasn't that long ago at all.
Yeah, I just remember exactly at the place I worked at. They had just we're in the back in like a shop like loading stuff, and they just had like the alternative rock station playing. And I heard the song. It was clearly Rancid, and they were like, "That's the new one from Rancid." You know what I mean? I was like, "Okay, cool." So they got new music coming out, and then so like and then eventually a couple weeks later, like I was telling you, in Texas I found this album in Lubbock. Actually is where I actually physically found it. Yeah, so
isn't this the first one with Brandon?
Yeah. And so like to me this song kind of represents that because it's like the new that's the other reason why it seemed like Rancid might have been done for, because they also lost a member, but also like again, because like for me personally, I was kind of, to be honest with you, forgetting about punk rock a little bit in this era. Like I just wasn't as close to it, and that's why
I had a similar thing going on.
This album kind of dropped in there. Last One to Die kind of made it like okay to still like it and not be involved with it. Is how that song and it was just a cool song. Even like I remember I had been at the job I was at for 3 years, but the place had only been open 4, and so I was one of the veterans there, and it just kind of had I remember it's so dumb now thinking of how small, but I remember this song, and I remember the little video with Tim. He's got like the coffee shop glasses that he's wearing, but he doesn't have the beard yet. He looks really odd in this video. He just looks different.
He's morphed a little bit too. He always kind of still looks the same, but he's got phases like everybody else.
This
People
is
give large crap for that, but Tim does it too.
But this is in between like ripped cool guy Indestructible Tim and like Matty Beard, Spider
Train
Head.
Hopper.
Yeah, like current transient Tim. Like it's right in between. It was when he was transitioning into his current like Pokemon phase or whatever he's in.
That's awesome, dude. Last One to Die is a fantastic song, man.
It is, yeah, cool, and it's that classic. Like the reason why I think it's held up so well too. It has that classic like Rancid, the fun Rancid songs. Like they have a few of these. Like you said, Up to No Good is fun Rancid, but in a different kind of way, more of like a deep cut style one. Where this is more of like what their hits sound like.
Right. Well, the next song is one that I think needs more recognition. It's called Disconnected. I feel like it could have been on Out Come the Wolves very much. The guitar intro with Lars singing and then this huge chorus. It's such a great rock and roll song. It encapsulates the entire band so well. And the bridge on that song is very, very good. It's classic Rancid. I think this album is a classic, honestly.
We get all three guys on this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love just that part whenever Tim sings it. What does he say with the city on the left and a country on the right? And just the way he delivers that right before they go into it. It just Tim has really good vocal deliveries in this one because his lyrics are like, he's really understandable on this one. It's less of his speed delivery. And so like all his sensitive stuff sounds like he delivers it really, really well.
I think he was starting to explore other kinds of sounds with like the 10 Time Bomb stuff. This stuff was starting to come around, and that's where we get the acoustic stuff. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes.
Right.
And we got I Ain't Worried. It sounds like a reworking from maybe a Life Won't Wait session song.
This one that's always like a subwoofer song for me, just because like it's Rancid. So let's turn that up and look cool.
It's very dance hall-esque, man. It's a bouncy track with haunting keyboards. Matt Freeman goes absolutely in on this song. Like, Matt Freeman, and dude, so it's almost like hip hop. It's almost like rap almost. It sounds kind of weird, and sometimes I'm not in the mood for it. But like, in actuality, it's a really, really, really good song.
But I think like a type of rap that you would be familiar with, like like that type of like rap where it's like it's not exactly freestyle, but it's just a bunch of guys on like an album. You know what I mean?
Yes. Like almost freestyle though, like a flow. It's like a flow.
like even though it's 236, so it's not exactly loose, but it kind of feels like in the context of punk and Rancid, kind of a loose song, because again, a lot of these guys get their parts and stuff, and like when he's like whoever's got the line about being like the king of the low income park and that kind of stuff, like that's just cool.
They approach this song as if they're in a room with DJ Screw and he's just making a mixtape and they're freestyling along with a beat. That's how they approached this lyrically anyways. This is what it sounds like. So I know what you meant. I agree with that. It's a good song. I don't think it's like an amazing song, but it's very much a good song.
It's fun. I always crank it though. Like I always like to turn that up. I just like the vibe of it.
Okay, so this is the first time in quite a while that I listened to this when I wasn't doing anything else. And I just kind of sat by myself in my car, listened to it very loud. All the nuanced sounds that come out of this record are, I think they're just ignored or like not caught by a lot of people, because there's so many sounds. And in songs like that, they're like I Ain't Worried. There's all these weird little songs, man. Sounds, excuse me. Weird little sounds in their songs. I don't know. I just think it's something that you need to point out, man. There's a lot of little intricate parts that go into the stuff that they create. Rancid is so much more than just a punk band.
It doesn't, but it also doesn't overwhelm the music, because like
correct.
These guys and Brett did a really good job of like figuring out where to place it and how to make it really flow and still be punk rock, you know?
So yeah, yes, I agree. They're the most. I'm gonna get in trouble saying that. Never mind. They're so good, man. They write such great music. Damnation was the next track. It's
good song.
All I see is damnation.
But basic, I would say.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue that that's not true. Yeah. But what I wrote down was it's kind of a bobber rock and roll type track with kind of like a vision into the future, what they were going to sound like, because this song sounds like the next three albums. Right. That's a good point. It's an incredibly catchy chorus and lyrics that I can relate to, and then I wrote down just in all caps, all I see is damnation, the whole world's gone to hell. And it's like, yeah, while it might be a basic song, it's basic in like a good way, I think.
It's
kind of a basic track.
No, and I also think too, it sticks out a little bit in the sea of songs that come right after it. So that's why it sort of really stacks out as like kind of like I said, like basic punk is what I think, like basic Rancid style punk.
Yeah, it is. I agree with that. But I think every album that they put out has to have something like that on there because that's just kind of who they are at their core.
Well, and you have a fan base, you know what I mean? Like you and I always get into kind of like the deeper songs that a lot of these bands have, but a lot of their fans just want to hear like, you know, they want to just kind of mosh and do their things. So you got to service them too. They're important, you know?
Well, we're about to get into some deep cuts because New Orleans is the next song on here.
Oh, what an epic.
Dude, I put on here, New Orleans is a great story told by Lars Fredriksson. This is a classic Lars type song. I love it. It's not a standout in my opinion, but it's a very strong offering. The song's last part is really, really good though. The stick against the rim of the snare, and it's almost a clap, you know what I'm saying? With an open chord strum and Lars singing. I just put shit, yeah, I'll have some of that stuff. It's just like this, like click, click, click with like a open, and he's singing, and he's got such great vocals. Like the production on this song is fucking awesome, dude. Like it sounds, dude. Lars rock and rolls this song, dude. Like he fucks this song so hard, dude. Like, yeah, that's a weird way to put it, I guess. But like, you know, he comes to the table and goes, "Here you go. This is as good as I got." And it's just, I mean, it's wonderful. I love it, man.
I mean, this is one of those like transcendent songs from the record.
I agree.
It's like one of those like, whoa, those are those some of those songs that are just very unique to this album that only exist in this space, and New Orleans fits right in there. It's just, it's not often, and we'll talk about this maybe in a little bit of a pair, because you have a 3-minute song and a 4-minute song right after this. It's not often that happens on a punk album, period, but much less on a Rancid album, and it does not drag it at all. But it's like I want to say maybe it's like, it's almost like a Life Won't Wait kind of feel, like approach to like their poppy music. It was almost like the idea behind, like, let's take like the some of the progress that they made on Indestructible, but let's also like focus on it a little bit harder. Like these songs just feel very, very well crafted. Like it took a long time in between, and they probably worked on them for a long time, I would assume. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's what I was gonna say. They had a lot of time because they had to teach Brandon how to be a member of Rancid. So when you have extra time to practice playing your songs that already exist, you also get to spend some time crafting new material. And like you said, I think these songs were taking their time on them. And you get Civilian Ways next, which is the one you were talking about. And that song, all right, so check this out. So I'm gonna tell you what I wrote down. I'm gonna tell you what happened today.
Okay.
So Civilian Ways is almost a country song. Such great storytelling. It's kind of a sad song. And I put, I love this song. And then I put, fuck, man, my dad would have loved this song. It's a fucking banger of a song. And then I put, damn, my dad would have really liked this. Steel guitar and shit, organ, almost tropical sounds at points, and it's in some traditional Irish sounds. This song is super complex, amazing storytelling, one of the best representations of the songwriting abilities of Rancid, not just a fucking punk band. That's what I wrote down. And so I'm getting like emotional thinking about this because my dad, dude, I haven't seen my dad die when I was 17, man. And so he was kind of like my dad was like a redneck, right? But when as I was getting older, sorry, dude, I don't talk about my dad a lot. As I was getting older, he was buying me punk music, right? And I don't know what made him do this, but he would listen to these records with me. And it was weird. Like he didn't have any interest in anything I ever did until right before he passed away. And I remember he liked the Dropkick Murphys. He liked the Bouncing Souls. He liked the Gadgets. And I remember distinctly him saying, "Oh, this isn't so bad," listening to some of the Life Won't Wait stuff. Mm-hmm. And when I heard this song today, it just brought up all these feelings and memories because it's impeccable storytelling, dude. Like this song is fucking beautiful. Like it's so good. And I literally was like singing the song at like the top of my lungs and just crying, thinking about my dad. Like if a band can do that to you, what else do you need from the band? Mm-hmm. Like in my opinion, if a band can draw that kind of, and it was a good feeling. I wasn't sad. It was just like, man, time to decompress a little bit. Here's the bell, you know, and like sing this song that you love and think about your dad and think about the time you get to spend with your kids and school's back in session, man. I got to take my kids to school this week and like man, I'm glad I'm doing a good job as a DJ. I don't know, dude. I know this song isn't about that, but it's about that for me because it reminds me of my dad because it's a song that I know he would have liked. And so it's just this is what music's about. It doesn't have
connection point. Yeah,
it's a connection point. It doesn't have to be topical necessarily. Now the topic of this song is pretty somber, I would say.
Yeah, and I want to jump on. This is one of my all-time favorite Rancid songs, but like not one that I'm throwing out there off the top of my head, like when I'm telling you Rancid songs. But if I were to in my on it, like since this
definition
album came
of a deep cut right here.
Yeah, and so like. So for me, I have a very deep connection with the song, but because of the lyrics specifically is actually my interaction, and in a few ways, like I had, it was just that time period, and what the song is about his brother, I believe, who actually is an Iraq War veteran, Tim's brother. I remember.
Oh, that's the song I was talking about earlier.
What's that?
I was like, is this a fucking war song?
Okay, yes, yeah, it is. So, and I assume it's about his, and the only reason I know this is I remember seeing Rancid live like in 2003, and they were doing him as Wicked, and he said, "This is for my brother, he's in Iraq." And then I remember years later reading a Transplants article and something about Tim's brother, because you always hear about Tim's brother, the one that's like still hangs out in like the Lookout like territory, but I guess he's got this other sibling. Or something like that, or whatever.
I didn't
is the
even
case.
know he had that many siblings, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I just remember this very specific. And then so this song though too, and like I lost a sibling of mine in that exact war that passed away.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And I had another. I've had just that specific war specifically. Like I didn't go to it obviously, but it's pretty like foundational in my life, just generally. And I've always generally liked like this type of music, like folk or protest music that's about those type of things. But it was the first time I heard a song that wasn't like a country song, which I don't believe any of. Like to me, I know it resonates with other people, but to me, it's mostly a gimmick. What in those country songs? So that's like what you're supposed to sing about. You know what I mean? Like, and so I heard this and it just it resonated with me because it's almost like, I believe it's about the sibling, but it almost like you would think the sibling has passed away the way that the song, cause it's almost this fantasy that he's singing about. And we're going to, I left this place back in 2003. That really resonated with me in 2009 2003 is the history, but like, that's how I knew specifically he was talking about Iraq because it's 2003. Like when else that's when the person would have left or the theoretical soldier in the song. And it's like, there's not necessarily a lot of room for this kind of subject matter or like style within like punk, you know what I mean? Or without punk songwriters, but go figure when a punk songwriter gets a hold of it, they do it very well. And there's plenty of good, like more somber, this stuff. I think like Green Day would try to do it with like the videos with 21 Guns, and that kind of stuff, because like eventually this music starts turning into like the bro country right wing kind of stuff, and that's why you generally just don't get into it. But that is not what this is about. This is more like a movie. This is more like a folk song, and I think there was a lot of those folk roots that he was about to hit with that solo stuff. A lot of that was peeking through right here.
My buddies told me that they thought this song sounded kind of like Bob Dylan. And I agree. Yeah,
on the last album, I remember telling you that Arrested in Shanghai, my friend's mom, who was an old hippie, she was saying she had to show it to her mom because it was Dylan. To her, it was Dylan. And I just think they were kind of in that zone. They kind of went back to a little bit more of their roots, or like further back in their roots in their next couple of albums. They kind of went a lot really with like the oi side of it, a lot with that in the next couple of albums.
Lars wrote a lot more of the music.
Yeah, and that's kind of where they went. This was them kind of like filling their oats a little bit.
Dude, this is the culmination of all their hard work. I'm telling you, dude, this is a much better record than people talk about. It is a fantastic album.
How about that they actually, because you asked about war songs, well, Civilian Ways is paired with Bravest Kids because it's the somberness of the Civilian Ways, but then he talks about the bravest kids who actually go to and do this, you know.
So that is also a song I was thinking about with this, because I also wrote down the word somber that you just used. I put right after that somber song, we get this banger of a punk rock song, The Bravest Kids, paying tribute to our soldiers and young people that are probably terrified. That's what I got out of it anyways. And yeah, man, this album is chock full of like very, very political, probably like personally political and heartfelt political, but very political.
Yeah, they were more. So these guys were more in shock on Indestructible with Lars's brother passing away,
Right.
with the divorce happening. Oh, they were more in shock on Indestructible. They were more reflective here of just like
Yeah.
So I fully believe if it is dedicated to this brother that I'm bringing here. Like I think Civilian Ways and Bravest Kids is basically one 5-minute like song. Like it's kind of a way of almost doing like what a Green Day would do with like an opera type of thing, but just break it up into actual different songs.
Yeah. Well, after that one we get Skull City. It
What
seems
song
kind of
is
like
that? That's the one I don't remember. Now that you're saying that. Go ahead. I just realized.
I think it's the one where he talks about the girl dancing on the table, isn't it? Dances
Okay.
on a table.
Yeah.
Yeah, dances on a pole.
Okay.
So
right.
I said it sounds like a Lars and the Bastard song, kind of.
Mm.
I don't want to like it, but I do. I bet it means something a little different than it seems like it does. And I was like, LOL, great rockabilly sound in parts. These guys sound like summer to me. It sound like summertime, dude.
Yeah, it's song's just fun. Like
it's kind of silly, but it's
yeah, nothing more, nothing less. This would be up there. Like again, there's not really any cut, but like if I was an editor and had to cut, I guess Skull City would be a pretty big one for me.
Okay, so not this one, but the next one. So LA River is a song that I think a lot of people might want to cut. I love LA River, dude. Yeah, often made fun of, but I absolutely love this song. The chorus shows that they are able to have a little bit of fun, and it's so fucking catchy, dude. Boom, shaka, like a boom.
Yeah, I just don't take it very. I don't take it that seriously. That's why I don't mind it. Like to me, it's just like it's
just them being. I feel like it's just them having a good time and being like, dude, that'd be hilarious, dude. We should do that. Let's just do it.
And there's such a serious band most of the time. And this album, we're like, look at all the heavy stuff we've been talking about. But there's a lot of fun on this album too. There's a lot of dynamics in this album. I remember at the time, a friend of mine, she was a few years older, and she knew like about music generally and knew of punk, but didn't really know anything really. And I had a little like MP3 player or whatever, and this was the only album that was on there. So she wanted to listen to it, and she was stunned by what she was. I ended up showing her more Rancid, and she understood and respected it, but it didn't really.
That's awesome.
She didn't really love it, but like she was stunned that band that I was wearing with the skull shirts all the time, that this was the music that they were making.
I was talking to my mom about that the other day. She was asking me like, "Hey, aren't you guys going to go see Rancid soon?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said something about. It wasn't anything like super negative, you know. She's chilled out, in her later years with all that nonsense. But I was like, "Yeah," I said, "I think Rancid's a band that I'm okay with my kids listening to, even at this young age." And she was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, they don't have a lot of cursing in their songs or anything." And I said, "They talk about a lot of serious stuff, but they're very positive people."
Yeah, it's very PG-13, if anything. Yeah,
you know, I mean, they have some stuff that they got fuck in a bunch of their songs, but like, it's not like they're out there just being like. You know, I don't know. They're not out there saying things just to say it. It's they everything that they do has meaning, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're not a shock value punk band at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, I said, "Mom, you should listen to some of their music." She's not gonna, but I was like, "You should listen to like specifically Life Won't Wait and maybe Let the Dominoes Fall," is what I told her. She just, she was like, "Huh." I think one day I'm gonna try to sit her down and let her listen to like maybe 5 or 6 songs and just be like, "Look, this is what I'm talking about." And let her listen to stuff that is important to me. And maybe she'll get it. Maybe she won't. She probably wouldn't even appreciate that. So I don't know.
But it's funny. I always look at them. We always talk about how the pop bands have to bring you into the punk. Rancid, I've always felt like with me, it was the opposite. I liked them because they looked cool with the skulls, and like to me, they were going to be the dangerous punk that I wanted to find. And then I got into them, and I really liked all of this stuff. I realized, oh, this is actually what they're all about. They're kind of the opposite of how you normally have that relationship.
Well, they're just amazing songwriters. They're so fucking good at what they do. I mean, the fact that they got lucky enough to have these 3 dudes fronting this band is kind of wild. Like, I don't think it'll ever be like topped or replicated.
Well, and with all 3 members having such important and vital roles in the songs, the making of the songs, and just the band generally. Like these are very important members to this team.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. Next song up is called Lulu. This is the second song that I would skip. I hate this song.
Oh no, see, and I have it in my notes that I left in the other room that this is like a top level song for me. I love Lulu.
Maybe I should go read. Okay, what do you like about it?
I like the way it's delivered. I like the message of it. I've always liked it. Maybe I like the way Tim sings Lulu. I've always just liked like the and then like America the Beautiful. That's what the sign says. I've just always loved that part. Yeah. It's to me this one's kind of similar to there's one on Indestructible. What is it? Off of Sweat, They Were Prophet, Youth, They Were Robbing. That one, They Grind You Down to the Ground. I can't think of it. But there's a song. There's a deep one.
Melody, but I can't
Lay on Indestructible. Like to me, it's kind of a pair song with that. Like in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would like absolutely skip it every time, but it's just one of the ones that I'm not really a big fan of. But then we get the song "Dominoes Fall," another catchy song that has sounds from their entire career, but it sounds like it could have absolutely been on an Out Come the Wolves or maybe a B-side on Life Won't Wait.
It could have been on a single that was released after this album too. I would have been okay with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not a bad song. I don't. Maybe it's where it's at on the album. It's another one too that I just.
Dude, I love this fucking song. It's so weird. We have some pretty opposite.
And I think it's a good. I think it's catchy. It's like, hey ho, let the go.
I love it.
I think it's catchy. I just like. And again, maybe because I really like Lulu. I'm a big fan of Alley River. Like I wasn't even aware of the criticism of Alley River. Like now that you're saying that, I know what you're talking about. I just, for whatever reason, Dominoes Fall, the song just kind of doesn't ever really hit for me quite right.
I really enjoy that song, but I mean, it's not something I'm going to put on my like personal top playlist or anything. But it's a great song.
Kind of weird because they don't really do a lot of title tracks. Like.
Right.
Yeah, they usually have like a lyric that is more right. That is the title. Yeah.
Well, the next song is absolutely a top tier Rancid song. It's Liberty and Freedom. It's a reggae anthem with incredible lyrics, and I absolutely love this song so much, dude. It's an incredible song.
Holy Tim Armstrong on the vocals on this one. It's amazing.
Dude, yeah, man. Oh, the lyrics in this song. This is a fucking protest song. This is a fucking anthem, dude.
He's doing like the Dylan thing, but but on like. Okay, on Civilian Ways and stuff, he's doing the Dylan thing like as Dylan. But here he's doing like the Dylan thing as like Lint. And it's pretty awesome. Like he's delivering it more in that,
and then
that
you have
gruffy
like these
kind of way.
You have these soft background vocals by Lars going,
spray painted on the wall. So yeah. Like a lot of these songs on this album could be like sang like chorally. I feel like there's a lot of like those big not gang vocals, but group melodies on this, and there's a lot of like different lyrical things happening on a lot of different parts of these songs.
Right.
With just doing that, I think that's just got to be them and Brett just really knowing how to stuff and how like, because you got to know like how to sing in the right key that complements what is just saying before. Like again, this is like it's punk rock, but there's a lot of intent in a lot of the way that they do these things.
Right.
They did it well.
Well, when this first came out, I remember listening to it and like not being sure how I felt about it. But when I got to Liberty and Freedom, I was like, oh shit. I was like, I need to re-listen to this album like right now because I don't think I understood what they were talking about until I got to this song.
Another life just could be a Life Won't Wait song too, right? Like
totally 100%. It sounds like a Life Won't Wait song. Then after that you got You Want It, You Got It. It's just another classic anthem from Rancid. It's this album's full of great songs. It's nothing to really write home about, but
every Rancid album has the second half song that's like, isn't it awesome that we like punk rock? Like,
right.
Like it's basically the feel to it, and they've got whether it's Spirit of '87 or the one on the new album where it talks about the Give 'em the Boot Camp. I can't think of the name of the song, but they have this. They have the It's So Cool That We Like Punk Rock.
Everyone can belong.
Yeah,
I love it, dude. It's just like
it's cool, yeah.
But it's anthemic, dude. It's like the one that you can see kids singing to it. To all my friends, dude.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And again, it's always kind of later on these albums where there's been a lot of heavy stuff. It's been kind of thick, and it's like you can almost see it like in the live show setting, like when you have like the slower songs. And let's pick up the energy, and this is a good one to really just
let's get back to having some fun.
Yeah.
After that, you get Locomotive. I think that song's got a really funky ass bass line. It's a throwback to the sounds of Let's Go. It's a slapper, bro. This album is as good as anything that they've ever done, in my opinion. I really truly believe that, man. I mean, there's as many songs on And Out Come the Wolves that I don't like as there is on this album. That should tell you something.
So man, Locomotive, I had kind of in my brain like, that sounds like the last record. And so you have Let's Go, which those records kind of sound similar.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think I always say the more recent record is like the really grown up version of Let's Go, and I think Locomotive sounds like a song that would be on the most recent on Tomorrow Never Dies.
I misunderstood what you said. Yes, okay, yeah. Locomotive sounds a lot like
it's that chuggy bass liney stuff.
And then it has that like super like twangy guitar solo.
Yeah, very Matt Freeman, Tim Armstrong. Just
Yes.
kind of the way they do things.
Then you have like this bouncy ska song, sounds kind of
Oh.
like the Clash and Life Won't Wait,
I
called
love it.
That's Just the Way It Is Now. It sounds, dude, that one has heavy Clash influence.
I don't think this song ever ends. Like, I think it just goes on in eternity. Like, I know it's got the Nashville fade, but like I've been under the influence of a lot of beer. I'll say drinking this, not drinking this song. The song, like, I just think of like being drunk and singing along to this song.
Well, that song is the second to last track on the album, and it feels like it's getting towards that part of the record, because when you get to the highway is one of those songs that every musician can relate to. It's a beautiful close to a wonderful album. Opinions are hard to put in prison. I tell you the truth that won't be told. Uprising and rebellion, social change with flesh and blood. Bro, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Read the lyrics to this song, dude. This guy can write some music. I just fanboy, bro. Like, it is what it is, dude. I don't get like this about anybody else. There is nobody else that makes me feel this way. There's a couple of close-ups, dude. Jack Dalrymple from One Man Army gets me pretty worked up. Brian Fallon from Gaslight Anthem. Mad Joe Black from Wisdom and Chains. These guys write lyrics that really affect me, dude. And dude, Chris from Born to Lose really, dude, it really gets me with his lyrics, man. So yeah, the Highway is one of those songs. When I heard it, that was the first song that I listened to a second time.
This one is great. It's another one of those like
touring songs.
Yeah, like it's funny because there's a lot of songs in pop music like this, but not a lot in punk. Like the closest we probably have in all of punk, you'd have to go to like something like Blink with like Adam's song, with like because like the tour songs are kind of lame, right? They're fun, but like whether it's like Only God Knows Why by Kid Rock or Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue, like every genre kind of has like that theme.
I don't even think of every punk band I can think of has a song like this though.
And but
they
not
all
one
have
that,
the one where they're talking about being on the road.
Not one that's like that. Like this though, to me, this song is more in like those classic rock type of road songs in that same kind of way. I think, yeah, something about this song really stands out to be like unique.
You need to listen to more street punk. All the street punk bands have songs. They're not like acoustic-y slow like this, but they all they have the same tone. But yeah, I do what you're saying, and I'm not trying to be rude. I'm actually saying like you should listen. Yeah, I think you'd like a lot of the songs. Is my point. If I come across them, I'll send them to you.
No, yeah, it's funny too because like again, I think about like now this feels like today I'm tired and this feels like a relatable song.
It does feel like I want to go home.
but also I was specifically, this is such a funny memory. So like this album, my son was born in 2010. This album came out in 2009. So basically the end of any fun I had in my life, I really associate with this album, and that's why I said like I think it'd be like the last time I got to really just be drunk and listen to music. Like I can be drunk now and go watch music, but not so much at the house necessarily. And I remember we were out at the time and my ex-wife was pregnant with my son. And of course she had to drive us home because I am in no condition to drive home. And I remember hearing this song and being so emotional about like the lyric. Like it's so corny because like, again, I'm 24 years old and drunk. So like, it's not really hitting me that hard, like in a real kind of sense, but I remember it hit me hard as the guy in the passenger seat with the pregnant wife that's driving me home. And I'm just thinking like, how cool of a song. It's corny as hell, but it's just a memory I had of the song. And it's funny, like it was resonant to my dumb early 20s mind. And I hear that song now and it's like, it's resonant in the more serious, like intended way also.
Well, like, okay, check this out. So when I hear this song, it's very cinematic to me. Mm-hmm. And when I hear it, I have this image that kind of just plays over and over. And it's of, it's like you see a dude's back. He's got like a battle vest on and his jeans on, his bandana hanging from his pocket. And a guy his keychain with like the little plaque thing that they took on the road with him. Where's mine at? I got some of those around here somewhere. You know, these things. Yeah, he's got one of these things hanging off of it. Yeah, and he's like pushing a cabinet up into the trailer and they're wrapping up and the sun's going down, or maybe it's really, really late at night and you got a street light on above him. And that's what I think of when I hear this song. Is I think like, dude, wrapping up the show, packing up the gear, saying bye to the fans. Maybe it's the last show of the tour and you're like, dude, fucking finally, man, I just want to sleep in my bed. Like And at the same time, you get home, you unlock the door, you open it, and you're like, "Fuck, I want to go back on tour." Like I know that that's what they're feeling when they write songs like this. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
man.
it's like an encore. It's like an encore to the album.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that because it's also like the beginning of the acoustic album. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird.
it transitions. But sometimes like I've seen bands before. Like it's weird when a band closes on like an acoustic number. Like I always find that a little odd, or like on a slower
I like to do
song.
an acoustic and then right after that do a fucking banger and then close.
But I've also seen a lot of bands who will just put on like an acoustic-y or maybe even like a folk song, not necessarily that they play, that they'll have over the PA as people are walking out. And I've always liked, like, suddenly after you've just been like banging your head to whatever you've been banging it to,
fucking Hey There Delilah comes on.
Yeah, or the Woody Guthrie song that they play over the thing suddenly sounds nice and peaceful.
Right.
You know, after you've been listening to Linoleum for 35 minutes or whatever. Well, and this is like an in-house version of that kind of song.
Dude, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. I have to wrap up here in a few minutes. I got some stuff I got to do before it gets too much later. But I want to talk real quickly about the acoustic versions of this album. It's an amazing second helping. It's like you get seconds for the record, right? A stripped down campfire sing-along version of some great songs. It says a lot about how they write their music. Plus what Tim was getting into with Tim Time Bomb material. It's a great addition and sometimes the type of sounds that you really need. But I don't think that any of those versions surpass the LP versions, in my opinion. I do wish that they would drop more stuff like that. If they would do an acoustic version of all their records, I think that would be pretty awesome to do in some kind of box set or something. And I think it would go over really well. I know that all their songs have been written on acoustic guitars for as long as I know.
Yeah, and see, I didn't realize that Outgunned, like I never snapped that wasn't a regular album track. I didn't realize that was a bonus track. Because I always think like that's always outnumbered, but never outgunned. Like it's just that the acoustic album itself is an album that in another universe you and I could do like one of our 15-minute segments on because it's all pretty good. I think of it like they're just versions of these songs and maybe original versions. There's one I can't think of it now. I want to say maybe like Liberty and Freedom or I Ain't Worried, that I thought has some cool arrangements like within it and what they were doing. But yeah, I do appreciate it. I'm glad I have it. It made me more familiar with the album as a whole, and that to me was because I got to like hear the lyrics a little bit more on some of these songs.
That's what I liked about it.
Yeah, you got to feel it a little bit more. But even like I would have sworn to you that Civilian Ways was one of those songs, but no, it's just an acoustic song on the regular record. And then like the version in New Orleans, that's the one that I actually really, really like. Like I don't think it's better than the album one, but it's also awesome. That's the song that I'm looking at it that I really like.
I've heard the Life Won't Wait demo album so many times that I can tell you that if they did like demo versions of all these songs and these records, that people would love it, man. People would buy it. I don't have a lot more to say about the record other than I think it's like as close as you can get to a 10 without being a 10. I think the album is almost perfect. I think that the fact that they gave us an acoustic version and it's also really, really strong says a lot about them as musicians. I think that maybe they were a little concerned about the future of their band, and that's why they brought you such a healthy amount of music. And I mean, this could have been a last album and none of us would have been shocked, and I don't think it would have been a bad way to go out. I personally really like their later material, but I do know that I'm on the shorter end of that conversation. I'm on the least popular side.
Yeah, I don't dislike anything of the new, and I love the new album like a lot, but I do think this was the end of something with them, or maybe the last gasp of something. Like kind of looking back, like I don't really know what it was, but it was sort of the end of some kind of era. But it took a long time for them to get there.
Sorry.
If it comes out though, like a little more in the peak of this music really being a little more popular than it, because it's not like it's super dead in 2009. But say if this comes out, just like say you have Indestructible in 03 and this in 05, I think this album would have been a lot better received. Or if the guys like literally would have
definitely agree with that.
Physically been younger. Like that also plays into it as well. If they were just physically younger, would have just, because there's something even your brain does when an older band is older and you just see them, you just assume maybe it's not as good without always giving it a chance. I think this just suffers just a hair from that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. Fucking great album, dude. I had a blast listening to it. And I was emotional going through this record. I don't get like that a lot, man. It's really nice to, I'm kind of a little pussy, I guess. I'm easy. I cry easy. I don't know what it is, man.
Rancid will bring that out of you. Their lyrics, and even if you're not into their lyrics, their music just has that evocative kind of thing to it.
I'm not trying to like get on a weird tangent here, but I've had kind of a rough life, man. I've had a lot of bad shit happen to me, a lot of stuff that I couldn't control, things I had no power over, and I've lost a lot of friends and family. And so, listening to music that pulls emotion like that from you, it's important, and we need it. Now, I don't always want to hear it. Sometimes I don't want to hear that. I want to just go listen to Up the Wolves and jam out to like really fast songs, or I want to go listen to The Unseen, or I want to go listen to some underground.
The Lillingtons might be a good.
Yes, I'll go listen to the Lillingtons. Or I'm going to be talking about tragedy here pretty soon on the channel. I'll go listen to something real dark, you know. Or I've been listening to Filth a lot lately. I've been listening to all that like late 80s, early 90s Bay Area stuff, dude. Filth and Crimp Shrine and all the stuff on Lookout. Yeah, stuff I don't even really have a lot of experience with, to be honest. I liked it, but I didn't really like. I didn't get into it the same way I did, like, because by the time I got into that stuff, I was already into like the U.S. bombs and shit, stuff that I really resonated with. So, but Filth is a great band. I love them, or we're a great band, whatever, however you want to say it. Anyways, man, next week we're going to be doing, what was it we decided on? Metallica, Ride the Lightning, and 7 Seconds. Oh, what album was it? It's The Crew. 7 Seconds, The Crew. It's from 1982 or 84. Yeah, both of these albums are 40 years old, so we're going to celebrate some 40-year-old like
this is the time I think the first time we've ever done a double header 40-year. I think we did Milo Goes to College was the only other 40-year one I think we've kind of done.
Well, we're going to do Victim in Pain pretty soon too, which is Agnostic Front and 40 years old. Yeah. I'll find some more stuff from that era. I think that stuff needs to be talked about a little bit more, and those are some of the like bedrock of what we listen to now. I mean, without those albums, a lot of stuff that we have, especially even Metallica. Think about all the music that we listen to that got directly influenced by thrash metal, which this would be like the bedrock of that, you know? So Metallica fits on this channel because old Metallica is awesome and new Metallica is what it is. There's plenty of
we are old men, so we are on the internet, so we have to talk about old men things like Metallica. So,
dude, I wonder if Metallica's going to bring. I just now thought about this. Do you think it'll bring a little bit different audience to the channel?
Probably. I mean, I would assume that's a huge. Yeah. Like I get into some of the online fandom with them, and it's huge. Like, I mean, they're a big band, so I would assume like there's some people that really live like and breathe it like pretty intense, you know.
Well, I'm glad I'm going to tell everybody how much that album sucks dick. Dude, that'd be so crazy if I got in here and was like, Ride Lightning's terrible. People would
with a punk audience, you might find it sympathetic. However, with like the audience though that would aggregate that, it would be like, you know. Punk rock fool thinks he knows something. And all the
I would probably definitely get some shit for that. Man, this was a good talk. It went by quick. I'm all of a sudden very tired. I got some things I got to do. I'm gonna get out of here. But man, that was fun, dude. If you guys have any questions, comments, recommendations, put them down in the comments below, man. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Thank you for subbing. The channel is growing. I'm having a blast, man. Thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all next time on the Punk Rock Review Podcast. Peace.